Dead Island 2 got revealed at Sony's E3 2014 press conference. That's nearly 9 years ago now, and in that time, rumours have swirled about switches in development, project reboots, and several suggested that it was outright cancelled. Thankfully, the latter proved not to be accurate, and it's now finally time to get your hands on Dambuster Studios' latest release, as you hack and slash your way through the infected streets of LA. Or Hell-A, as it's been rechristened. You can choose from a set of characters during the game's frantic opening scenes, each coming equipped with their own boosts to stats, and a couple of unique abilities to boot. Outside of these boosts, there's not a huge amount of difference between them from the time I've had with them, but your mileage may vary. For clarity, I spent most of my time with Danny, the loudmouth Irish punk rocker, and I had a damn good time doing so. In terms of the story, it's fairly standard zombie fare. I never finished the first game, but it is referenced quite early on. There's been a new zombie infestation in Los Angeles, which is now being quarantined from the rest of the planet. A group of characters hop on board a plane out, but surprise surprise, it's found its way onto the plane, which shortly goes down. A few survivors band together, hole up somewhere, and then set off to find a way out, while figuring just why you're so valuable to the CDC. It's a solid, enjoyable story, even if it's not going to dethrone the likes of God of War Ragnarok in terms of narrative awards. Onto the gameplay then, and this is where Dambuster have outdone themselves. As mentioned in our preview, there is a phenomenal system that's been deployed here, and that's the Flesh system. The fully localised evisceration system for humans is definitely an acronym first name, but it does exactly what it says out to do. It's a procedurally generated damage system that will mark and damage each hit individually. This provides some incredible opportunities to players, such as fully dismembering an approaching zombie, or just lopping one leg off and watching your foe helplessly crawl toward their doom as you wield a sledgehammer over their head. It's suitably gruesome, and the damage is exacerbated by the elemental effects that you can assign to weapons as well. If you've got a fire-infused weapon, you'll start to notice the flesh being singed from the undead horde. Electrical weapons will have a similar effect, while caustic weapons will start to melt the flesh from their bones, and the impactor mods will add more grunt to your strikes, making for even more eye-watering viewing as you watch an arm bone snap under the skin. It's honestly some of the most fun I've had smacking zombies about in a game, and it's a huge upgrade from just seeing splodges from gunfire hit them until they eventually fall over. In addition to these, you can craft traps for groups of enemies by doing things such as drenching the floor in water and throwing a car battery into the resulting puddle, or setting fire to petrol that you've poured all over the floor, resulting in a lovely fireball that will burn them to a crisp. Gruesome kills aside, the general gameplay loop of Dead Island 2 is pretty straightforward. Get an objective, go to it, kill some brain-hungry ex-humans, then return to a safe house before doing it all again. Some of the missions in here are a bunch of fun though, and I rarely found myself thinking not again as I picked up a new quest. There are of course side quests to take on and further expand your skill set. Do not sleep on the lost and found ones, by the way, because some of the rewards are superb. And you're also not bombarded with icons on the map like an Assassin's Creed style open world. In fact, calling this game an open world is doing it a little bit of a disservice. I'm at a stage in my gaming life now where I prefer to have a more linear story put in front of me that I can just crack on with and get through. Dead Island 2 merges a linear story with open areas really well here. If you want to go exploring, you can do that without any penalty, save for your weapons getting a bit battered, and when you're ready, the quests are there to jump back into without the need to go and reset anything. For the most part, I was mainlining the story, but I did stop and get through some of these side objectives, which are all equally as entertaining as the main game. Throughout these, you'll find skill cards which can be added to your character in order to give you an edge in combat, new weapons, and a ton of journal entries which flesh out the rest of the story if you're into the lore of it. Talking of the skill cards, there is actually quite a lot to dig into here. There are 5 separate areas that you can upgrade, and you unlock slots to put them in as you gain XP throughout the game. It's a really good system which allows you to customise your character to suit your playstyle. There are some abilities later on which I won't spoil, but can very quickly turn the tables on an encroaching swarm, especially if you have some bigger boys coming at you. In terms of moment-to-moment gameplay, there's a lot of crafting available, which can be done at one of the numerous workbenches around the world, as well as finding weapons randomly strewn across the environments. One thing that I really appreciated was the ability to match your weapon's level to your characters. This means if you become attached to a weapon, like my beloved slaughtering claws as an example, you can keep them through the entire game and bring their damage stats up to par, meaning you don't have to scrap or sell them. It's a very cool mechanic which, even though a little pricey, can certainly help you get through some pretty gnarly fights. I'm 37, I just said gnarly. Anyway, graphically the game looks really nice. Not sure on the native resolution, I played on the Xbox Series X, but for the most part the frame rate definitely holds up. It did start to get a little bit chunky when I entered one of the more open areas than the others, and I'm sure we'll have a performance video live now that the day one patch is here, but in single player it's relatively stable throughout the entire game. I did notice it start to get a little bit jittery during gameplay in co-op, but hopefully again we'll be able to cover that a little bit more now that that patch is hit. Hell A feels like it's been suitably renamed here. Everything feels like it's just gone to, well, hell. Cars lie crashed in the street with bodies under their wheels, electrical cables dangle from pylons, and the blood. Oh good lord, the blood. It's everywhere. Imagine if you gave a toddler a tin of red paint, popped the lid off and told them to run around your house. I imagine that's pretty close to the amount of claret on show here. The environment is pitched perfectly, with certain areas of LA recognisable just from the feel of them alone. Of course, the game doesn't take itself too seriously either, coming off as more Shaun than Dawn, and it's all the better for it. There is one moment earlier on where you have to navigate through a YouTuber house, and it's so on the nose, it's hilarious. Wrapping up then, Dead Island 2 is a very, very fun video game. There are a few jump scares here and there, as you'd expect from a zombie game, but on the whole, it's definitely not a horror game. At least not in the purest sense. The combat is sublime thanks to that flesh system. By the time I'd unlocked the guns, I was genuinely torn whether to use them, such as the satisfaction of watching limbs and bits of zombie fly off. If you do succumb to them, respawning is quick and doesn't result in any lack of progress, so you can get back into the mauling. There are some fantastic set pieces here as well, with some of the boss fights proving pretty difficult. I had fears that this game was going to become another Duke Nukem Forever, but I think it's safe to say this is definitely not the case, and it's a game that you shouldn't sleep on. Usually, a spell in development hell means doom for a video game. However, Dead Island 2 has clawed its way to a point of release with a genuinely exciting combat system, an enjoyable story, and plenty of humour tucked away to make sure it gives you a really good time. If you're in the mood for some zombie smashing, it's hard not to recommend, and I had a great time with it. I can see myself going back in for some more co-op fun once the game is fully out. Thank you for joining us, guys. If you have enjoyed this review, please do drop us a like, leave us a comment down below, get yourself subscribed to the channel. Let us know, are you going to be picking up Dead Island 2? Which character are you going to be going with? Have you got any favourite weapons that you've seen so far? Just let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.